Hi there, traders. We had the taper decision today, and it was quite a surprise. I don't think anybody thought that the Fed would actually push and do nothing. And now I listened to the press conference. It seems as though Bernanke might be pushing the cards away from actually doing any taperings of this year. And it could be so many factors involved in this, but the one major one that pops into my mind is that his term ends at the January 31st, and the new favorite is Yellen, I think Janet Yellen, and she is considered to be very dovish, and that could put tapering further on the back table. And what could that lead to? It could lead to further dollar weakness, but at the same time we have had quite a run up in the pairs against the dollar. Many of the pound, the Aussie, New Zealand, they have all broken major resistance levels, and we could see a break. We could see considerable movement. This could be definitely an opportunity where we could see people taking profit and start seeing a move back, a continued move into strength of the dollar, but we will see, and we're just going to follow it very technical. So let's look at the trading, what happened here when we had the release, and really what we could have and should have, well, there's nothing we should have done, but what we could have done. We can see that we had big pops today in all of the Great Britain, Euro, Oz, and right after the data, and what I was looking for was a pop in these pairs, but not a pop that big, because like I said, I did a lot of research on the 18th and 19th of June interest rate decision, and in most of those pairs we only had like a 20 pip drop, and that's a feasible trade to jump into. But on these pairs we had let's just use the pound for example, a pop from 159.79 all the way up towards 159.40. So we have a, let's say, 65 pip area there. We would have to place our stop below that just to try to get a continued move higher. And the risk reward just wasn't there. It wasn't there in the Euro. It wasn't there in the Aussie. This is the Aussie. It wasn't there in the New Zealand. The risk reward just simply wasn't there. Now what we could have done is just jumped in at these points and put a 30 pip stop and made a run for a push higher, but to be honest, I was expecting a little bit of a pullback for the continued spike higher with a chance to get into those moves, and that's neither here nor there. But what is relieving is that we do have an increase in a playback into volatility, so I do see lots of trading activity in the near future. And let me tell you how I come up with this theses that I'm having. For example, we'll start off and just looking at the Great Britain, New Zealand, which I will point out is right here at trendline resistance at 192, let's say 80. Let's take a look at this price action today when we were sitting on the sidelines. You can see that we did have a break of the range after that positive data at 445 at 194.08. You can see the pair moved all the way up towards 194.67 before letting off. We could have easily jumped into those trades. In the future, we can just see we had the volatility to jump in those trades to definitely lock in. Let's see, we'll jump in at 194.07, and we got a cross here at 18. Did we get up to 57? Just miss it. So you get like 20 pips there, and of course we would have closed out before that. So and if we look at the Euro and New Zealand, that trade will not be. It'll be the Great Britain Oz. You can see we have a similar pop there at 170.53, and we get up towards the 170.90. So there's definitely pips to be had there. There's another 20-30 pips, and this was just on a cautious day before data, so we're going to be able to jump into those trades once again. Now let's look at why we couldn't jump into anything right after the data release, even with the bigger moves in the majors. If we'll start out with the Euro odd, if we can see that the pair was favoring a continued push, well, it was sitting very much sideways, and you can see we have big continued price action to the top and the bottom right at the break. We had a push up towards 142.88, a push down towards 142.12, so we have a 70 pip range right there, and in that 70 pip range, actually very similar to what we had after the data in the Aussie on Tuesday, but you can see within that 70 pip range we do have a square bottom, and that bottom is going to be from that big reversal it had on Monday. How clean is that? Big reversal we had on Monday, and that was and you can see that the pair moved down, touched that level, and bounced back. So there really wasn't a trade that was available to us at that point. So we had to pass on that pair, on the on the Great Britain odds, you can see very similar that the pair spiked down lower and ran into resistance right there, which is also going to be those lows from Monday. And you can see that the pair then just consolidated and has bounced higher, so there really isn't a trade to get into there. And it's going to be a recurring theme where you can see in the yen pairs, they almost worked exactly like I said. We had a push down, then a reversal, and now we're going to consolidate. Great Britain, same way, and I would assume that that's probably what the yen's doing, yes. Now, the pairs that could have been a little bit interesting was the Great Britain New Zealand pair, because you can see that pair pushed down and it looked as though it was going to break, but it ran into the resistance that we had from yesterday, but that could have been yesterday, and we can see we had a quick reversal there. And the Euro New Zealand, very similar. Now this trade could have been a actually a trade that would not have worked, and you can see that we had the push down and we had a break of the range right here. Could have gone short at 160, 160. And you can see that it looks like right now we're reversing, so we probably would have closed that trade out at break even. So what you can see is that we had a little bit of volatility, and now what we have to keep in mind is quite often on these moves, we're going to get a breakout of the range that is created sometime in European trading, or maybe even early Asian trading, and that is something that we can jump on and get additional pips. And that's what I'm going to be looking forward to jump into tomorrow. All right, everybody, we're going to get. It looks like volatility is back on the table, so we should have some exciting price action here in the near future. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow in the AM.